Last fall, we were living large. We had these chickens that were laying so many eggs. It was amazing, and we got to the point where we're like, hey, we're gonna need to start doing something with all of these eggs. So what did we do? We went through them, we used them. We started cooking meals that use more eggs. Baking stuff, we were making a lot of German pancakes for dinner. We love that kind of stuff. But then we hit that period of time where the hens stop laying. Happens every year in the wintertime, but it lasted a lot longer than we thought. And it led us to do something we hoped to never do again. We had to buy eggs from the store. So this year we want to avoid that problem, and instead of just burning through our eggs when that time comes around, we want to have some eggs stored. And today I'm going to show you the best way to do that. What we're going to do today is called water glassing. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to store a bunch of eggs in a jar that is basically free from air. The oxygen is not going to be getting into it, and we're going to surround these eggs with a mixture of water and pickling lime. And it's actually really simple. So a couple things you're going to need to know right up front. First of all, it is handy and helpful and best to use clean water. And so rather than just use regular tap water, I took my tap water and I ran it through my Alexa Pure water filter. And so this is dang clean. It's not distilled water, and if you don't have a great filter or something like that, you're welcome to go to the store and buy some distilled water. But I just went ahead and grabbed water for my filter, no problem. We're also going to need pickling lime. You can get this stuff at the store, you can get it online. In fact, I'll link to that so that it's easy for you to find. I'm also using a half-gallon jar. Now, I've read a lot from a lot of people who have done this before, some will say you can use up to a 5-gallon bucket, but that's dangerous. The higher you go, the more pressure you're gonna be putting on those lower eggs, and the bigger the container, the taller the container, the more breakage you're gonna get near the bottom of these eggs, and we just don't wanna waste them like that. So I like these half-gallon or 2-quart jars, and so that's what we're gonna use. Notice I've also got a quart jar here full of water. Again, that's just for mixing in the lime. And essentially we're gonna pour that in sort of as we go. Obviously we're going to need eggs, but it can't just be any eggs. They've gotta be like fresh eggs. We can't go buy store-bought eggs. They still need to have that coating. They call it the bloom, but essentially when the egg comes out, it's got a little bit of a coating on it, and that coating makes it less permeable, like the air isn't getting through as much, and it protects the eggs. And because of that, we can store fresh eggs literally outside of the fridge for weeks before we use them. So for that same reason, we're also going to be using the cleanest eggs that we can get without having to clean them. So some of the eggs that we pick up out of the chicken coop are a little dirtier than others. Those eggs I left home, and those ones we will just wash and eat like normal. So the first thing I'm gonna do is measure out 1 ounce of pickling lime. That's what I have this little bowl here for, and that's why I have a food scale. I'm gonna call that close enough. 1.01 ounces. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna scoop that lime into this quart jar. Now I wanna mix this up the best I can. To the best of my ability, I really wanna dissolve this lime into there. Over time, it's pretty normal. You're gonna see as this is storing that some of that lime is gonna precipitate out and settle to the bottom around the eggs, and that's totally okay. But especially here at the very beginning, we want to start with it mixed in as well as possible. I'm gonna quick wash my hands, and then we're gonna get started. It's only been like 1 minute and it's already starting to precipitate out. Again, that's totally normal. Okay, I'll give this a quick stir before I start pouring some of it in. Okay, I'm gonna open this container up and I'm gonna pour a little bit in. I don't wanna fill this up by any means, but I want some in there to help sort of hold the eggs a little bit upright as I put them in. Now we're gonna take the eggs, and when you look at an egg, it's not like a perfect oval, right? There's one end that's narrower than the other. That end actually goes down. It's the proper way to do this. And then the air space stays here at the top. So we wanna set them in that direction. Now my hands are enormous, so even though this is a wide mouth jar, I'm not gonna be able to just set them straight in, so that's gonna make this interesting. This is maybe the upside of using food grade buckets, or getting the help of your small children. Okay, now I can probably use a spoon or something. Yep. And we wanna make sure we sort of tip these upright. We certainly don't want them laying on their sides. just trying to pack them in well. So what I've done is I put kind of 4 in the corners on the bottom, 1 in the middle, and then 4 again. And then I'll kind of do 1 in the middle, and we'll just try to do it that way. I think that's going to be about the most efficient packing of this size of jar. This would have actually been a little bit easier probably if I'd used some tongs. But I'll set this one in here gently. Try to get it to sit right there in the center again. Okay, I'll stir this up and we'll add a little more water. We did 1 quart of water for this because the packing ratio should be about 50%. Basically it should end up about halfway full of eggs, halfway full of water by volume. But it's gonna depend a little bit on just how the eggs lay, and that's okay. Okay, we're gonna add some more of this water to, again, help sort of hold the eggs in place. They're not standing exactly how I put them, and that's perfectly normal. Again, it likes to precipitate out at the bottom, so stirring it up before pouring it in, especially here at the end, is going to be pretty important. I do want them all covered, so I'm gonna get just either I can take this last egg out. That's probably what I should do. There we go. Then what we want to do with all of the eggs completely covered is we just want to put on an airtight seal. This is a lid. It's made by Ball. It's just a leak-proof lid that basically allows me to open, reclose it without having to like do a water bath seal or anything like that. So these eggs now, after just a few minutes of effort, should last easily for a year to 18 months. Again, I'm not trying to give you like advice on what's safe and not safe to eat, but that is kind of the go-to standard. Now, as I use these eggs over the coming months, I'm not gonna store them for a year. I'm going to be using them over the winter when we're not getting fresh eggs from our chickens. So I'm not worried about it because like, again, it's supposed to be good for a full year and I'm only gonna be eating them a couple months from now. But an important thing to note, when you store these, you do wanna store them out of direct sunlight and even light as much as possible. Put them in a reasonably dark place and put them in a place that's gonna stay cool. Our garage is gonna stay pretty cool during the winter, but in the summer it gets hot. Again, I'm gonna be using these, and so maybe my garage is okay, but I'm probably actually gonna be putting them in the pantry in my kitchen, kind of in sort of the back corner of the shelf. So it's sort of out of the way, out of the light, and stays room temperature. And I think that's gonna work just fine. But I'm gonna tell you how this goes. This is the first time we've done water glassing for our eggs. And I've heard that it can impact sort of the quality of the egg when you go to use it, but we shall see. I'll try some for baking. I'll try some just scrambling them and eating them, and frying them and eating them, and just kind of all the different ways that we use eggs, and let you know how it goes. Preserving food is one of the most helpful, beneficial things that we can do to make sure that we're prepared for any kind of emergency. And so that's one of the things that we cover on this channel, but we cover all sorts of preparedness topics. If preparedness is something that you love, this is probably a good place for you to hang out, and I hope to see you in our next video.